This is a show about getting spooked for fun, and neither one of the hosts are associated with the attractions discussed in any way, except for those skeletons in Devin's closet. Some topics may go from ghoulish to ghastly, so viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to the Great American Scream.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Great American Scream. My name is Devin Wright.
My name is Adam O'Connell, and Devin, you seem somber. You seem
Yes. Well,
melancholy. You have the black bile.
I do. I'm melancholic today, partially because I have a bit of a throat thing going on, so that's why my voice is so sultry today. But also, something very scary happened. It's the month of the beast, everybody's favorite time, October. And the scariest thing of all happened the other day, which was that a very important figure in the world contracted a sickness, and it was Minecraft Steve, and he got the sickness of being in Smash. And we're all very scared.
We're all wishing for his quick recovery. Talk about this right now.
No,
it doesn't seem like the platform.
Yeah, we're talking about it. We're talking about Minecraft important. Steve contracting being in Smash.
Yeah, I mean, Steve is such an icon. Like, how it was inevitable.
I guess it was inevitable. I was hoping for Master Chief and his good guns.
I was hoping for Sora myself, but
I actually want Gino. Gino should be in the game.
What can we say? Steve is an icon to a generation.
Yeah, we're sending our thoughts and prayers to him and his family in this trying time. It's very hard.
And only
but
Steve.
We'll press on. Nobody else, just Steve. I mean, to the hundreds of thousands of families dealing with the ongoing COVID crisis. So, of course, pray for them as well. But as I said, it's October. So why don't we take a trip back to a favorite place of yours and mine?
Yeah.
Ohio.
Cedar Point, baby. Cedar Point.
They do scary stuff, don't they? Adam, let's change the podcast episode.
Stop. Whatever we were going to talk about. I've actually never been to Cedar Point's Halloween event. But
I've never been to Cedar Point.
I've never been to Cedar Point either. I don't know why I specified the Halloween event, but a Halloween event I have been to is Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights.
The home of Tara Kruntis.
The home of Tara Kruntis, and of course, the premier theme park event of the country. And although Halloween Horror Nights was canceled for safety reasons this year, the Orlando park did just open 2 of their originally planned houses as part of their daily ops, modified for social distancing and mask wearing. Those houses being Revenge of the Tooth Fairy and The Bride of Frankenstein Lives.
Okay.
I'm glad to see that some of those very hardworking arts and design people got to put some of their work up on display. I hope everybody's being safe. I love The Bride of Frankenstein. She is my second favorite Universal Classic monster. But by the way, there are still thousands of theme park workers in the Orlando area who are still furloughed and who have recently been laid off, who are facing food insecurity. If you are interested in helping those cast members, please check out the Cast Member Pantry. It is a food pantry created by theme park workers for theme park workers that delivers free groceries to furloughed employees in the Orlando area. You can donate to them directly if you're local, but if not, you can donate to them on Venmo at Cast Member Pantry. You can also check them out on Facebook. It's a really hard time for a lot of theme park workers out there with everything going on in Orlando. So if you have the means, help out some people who definitely need it this time. But like I said,
I think we retweeted something from them on Twitter as well. So you can check out our Twitter.
Definitely check them out. So they're some of the hardest working, most creative, most wonderful people in the country. And speaking of their wonderful creativeness, I would today like to kind of dive back into the lore of Halloween Horror Nights because we discussed our very first episode was about Halloween Horror Nights, and we kind of briefly, and more so about the history of the event, but we kind of got to briefly discuss, Jack the Clown, Tara Kruntis,
Penn and Teller blowing up the universe,
Penn and Teller, Nuke Las Vegas. But there's pages and pages, and I mean pages of lore that we did not have the time to explore. But so we're going to dedicate a whole episode to finding out the lore secrets of Halloween Horror Nights. And because in an event very often dominated, or at least headlines by IPs. Like the icon of the 2018 event was just the concept of Stranger Things. So people often forget about the incredibly intricate storylines that make up the original houses, scare zones, and icons. Storylines that often span for multiple years and multiple events, and that maybe even if you've been going to Halloween Horror Nights for years, you might not notice are connected. So we're going to grab out the big conspiracy board with all of the tacks and the strings in it.
Let me just
and reel it out. Here. Blank, ready to go, and we're gonna connect the dots.
Finally, down to the bottom of this.
Yes, maybe look at the storylines, check out some icons. Which icon would win in a battle to the death? I don't know. Why don't we find out?
The concept of Stranger Things, I think, from a monetary standpoint,
they have
quite
monetary
the war chest.
backing. The first thing that I want to get into with this Halloween Horror Nights cinematic universe, as it will, is Carey, Ohio. Now, the town of Carey, Ohio, a significant portion of Halloween Horror Nights' original houses and scare zones take place in the town of Carey, Ohio. Now, Carey is very real. It is a real town in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
So you bringing up Ohio works.
Okay. Yeah. No, I knew we were talking about Carey, Ohio. I didn't know it's a real place.
It's a real place.
Who live there.
Founded in 1858, notable for its railroad history.
Oh, I'm in. Cancel this podcast for doing a railroad history podcast.
All I have is that it once had a train.
It's okay. I'll come back next episode. It'll be a Carey, Ohio railroad history. I'll fill us in. Yeah. So the reason it's used in so many events is that it was the hometown of one of the original Halloween Horror Nights arts and design team members. Now I did some very heavy research in this episode. I could not find the name of this team member, so they sure. wish to remain in anonymity. I think out of fear of going back to Carey, Ohio, and becoming like a local celebrity. But you have to figure they know who it is. Like how many
the town of Carey does.
Yeah, because it's not like there's a whole cohort of Carey, Ohioans who went to go work at Halloween Horror Nights. Like it's probably notable. They're like, oh well, Jimmy from Carey High went and worked for Universal. It's probably him.
They probably figured it out. But so the reason and the tradition has carried on from its first mention in 2008 until houses today. Now, technically, the first time Carey, Ohio was used during Halloween Horror Nights was in 2002 during the Islands of Fear event. But it wasn't used by name until 2008. They kind of like retroactively said
that one was Carey also.
That was in Carey, and like, they retconned
I like that. It's a retcon, yeah.
So this house was called Scream House and was the icon house for that year's icon, the Caretaker, whose hometown is Carey, Ohio. Scream House.
Caretaker.
Scream House, I really like as the name of a haunted house because any haunted house could be Scream House.
Yeah, why don't we just call them Scream Houses?
It's a house full of screams. They're not always haunted.
Yeah, in fact, I'd argue they're never haunted.
They're just full of screams.
Yeah, they are literal scream houses.
Yeah. But so this house took place at Shady Oak Cemetery, which had been closed for 10 years after it was discovered that Dr. Albert Kane, the caretaker, and his family had been...
Dead?
What?
What's all this dead? Somebody call my name.
Oh
no,
Mr.
you're calling...
I'm looking for a doctor.
My brother. Oh, sorry. Yes. Might be my brother, Albert. He lives in Ohio, I guess.
I loved your work in Austin Powers Goldmember.
Yes, it's me, Mike Myers.
No, Michael Caine was in that movie too, you plebeian.
No, I know. Who does number 2 work for? We're getting off topic.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Dr. Albert Kane and his family have been using corpses for experiments and as playthings. It had since been burned to the ground, taking the family with it. But police had discovered a series of tunnels under the graveyard that was off limits to the public. ... Until now.
It's like Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I guess.
Dompe the Gravekeeper and you go into the tunnels. I love Zelda.
So the actual first time Carey was used by name was in the 2008 scare zone, The Schoolhouse, spelled with a K, based on the house School, also spelled with a K, from 2005. And I have the blurb to describe this very good scare zone. Mr. Renshaw's class has always been good. Mr. Renshaw's class has never broken the rules. Mr. Renshaw's class has always been perfect little angels. All of that changes when the kids from the schoolhouse cut, in quotes, class. The children of the quaint town of Carey, Ohio are about to teach everyone that their version of trick or treat may be the difference between your life and death.
Huh. Okay.
I know it doesn't give you a lot about the story.
It doesn't give me it. No, to be fair, it gives me a lot.
Okay.
It gives me a lot of feelings. First off, my first thought was Mr. Renshaw will see you now. Just, word association.
Yeah.
I'm neck deep in a NyQuil. And are we insinuating? Okay.
Yeah.
All that changes when the kids from the schoolhouse cut class with quotation marks.
Yes.
So either a marketing copy editor was like, they're not physically cutting the class with scissors, right? And they go, no, it's a saying. No, let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
No, it's an expression. They're like, They're leaving. It's like, okay, so we should put quotation marks around it. And they're like, well, that's weird. Or the kids are physically cutting the class. More confusing.
They are the class, which is
right.
confusing. Yeah,
they are the class. They are cutting the class. They've always been perfect little angels, but that changes now that they are now the cut children, the children of the cut. Are they? Okay, so if it's a haunted house,
I have so many scare zones to talk about.
That's old people. Usually it's old. They're dead. They're gone. How are these children now evil demon things? They're children.
Okay. Now I understand your concern. So this was a scare zone and it was tied into 2008's icon, Bloody Mary, as it was where Mary Agana, who became Bloody Mary, where her grandmother, Mary Worthington, worked as a teacher and was suspectedly murdered in a prank gone wrong. So I think that's where the cut comes into play. We'll get to talk a little bit more about Bloody Mary later when we talk about the icons. So this scare zone was immensely cool because it was in an open part right by where the parade gate is. So they would drive out the cast on a school bus and park it and then just let them loose.
Okay, that's cool.
It's very cool. It's a popular scare zone that still gets referenced today and people still really enjoy it. However, one of the most beloved uses of Carey, Ohio was in the 2009 house Leave It to Cleaver from Halloween Horror Nights Ripped from the Silver Screen. In this house, we meet Samuel Meats, who is Meetz.
Is he a butcher?
He is a butcher. He's Carey's butcher,
yes!
and he's a butcher and the owner of Meats, whose supply chain is rather fresh. It's folks. It's people.
It's people. Will we get to the point where we can play a tabletop RPG in Carey, Ohio, based on all these characters that have been fleshed out?
I would love to play one as like we used to play as the icon. Trademark. So this house also tied in with the event's main storyline, with that year's icon being the usher, as Meats is the snacks.
Usher.
Yeah, Usher. Meats is the snack supplier for the Universal Palace Theater, where a girl was once traumatized to find a severed human finger in her hot dog. This caused the family to become ravenous carnivores, refusing to eat anything but meat products.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah, huh?
One, did she find a finger in the hot dog bun? Or was there merely just a finger on the, sewed onto the end of the hot dog?
I had that same question. I'm going to say she found the finger in the meat of the hot dog, because I feel like if it was in I feel like if it was in the bun, by the time that she got it at the concession stand to when she sat down to take a bite of it in the theater, presumably 10 minutes into the movie, she would have noticed. Yeah,
but also, how did the whole finger end up in a meat product that is ground by a meat grinder?
How do you think they're not running sanitary business every year?
Moving on. Second issue. Yeah. The family goes, how dare you give my daughter a finger in her hot dog? Now we will consume only human flesh. Like, what?
I don't think it's only human flesh, though. I think it's just meat products is what it says.
We found human meat in our meat, so now we'll only eat meat.
Yes.
What? They should become vegetarians. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So this house also introduces us to Meaty Meats, the shop's mascot and the mask that all the scare actors in the house wore. Meeting Meats is he's little mascot. He's got a fun. He kind of looks like
meat?
No. He kind of looks like
he?
Big Boy. Big Boy. Big Boy.
Who is Big Boy Adam?
You don't know Big Boy? Big Boy. He's got the burger. He's like the guy. He's got the little red overall. Is that a place called Big Boys? Yeah, it's called Big Boys.
Big Boy.
It's a restaurant, and he's got the statue out front of the boy holding the burger, and he's in the red overalls.
I'm sure I'm picturing the right man. I didn't know his name was Big Boy.
I think it's called Big Boy. If not, I just said something wild. But I'm pretty sure it's called Big Boy. But that's what he looks like.
I hope it's not.
It's just something else. Meeting Meats has since appeared as an Easter egg in many houses, having become something of an unofficial kind of cult icon. Like we have the surface icons and then we have the underground icons, and Meeting Meats is one of those. And now Carey has since appeared in numerous houses and scare zones, including classics such as The Orphanage with an F, Ashes to Ashes, HR Blood and Guts Presents Holidays of Horror, which is one of my favorite old school Halloween Horror Nights houses, the All Night Die-In, Lunatics Playground in 3D, and most recently in 2018 in the Twisted Tradition Scare Zone and Slaughter Cinema, which was like the comedy house of that year. Did you have a question? Or
I'm noticing a bit of a pattern in that the names of the things are just, we change like one letter in the spelling.
Yeah, it makes it spooky.
They basically throw a dart at the word and they change whatever letter it lands on. And if it's a pun about a scary thing, great. If not,
that's okay.
Send it on anyway. Orphanage, Ashes to Ashes. That's not a reference, but who cares?
Yeah. There have also been several Gothic haunts set in Calais, France.
It's just Calais. Yeah.
No.
Just say Calais.
No, it's Carey. Carae.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Calais.
No. Calais.
Calais.
Yeah. Other notable locations in Carey include the Wyandotte Estate, a haunted mansion built in the 1920s, Shadow Creek Labs, which creates genetically enhanced super soldiers, Carey State Penitentiary, which sent serial killer Bobby the Blade Galetta to the chair, and 19 Mockingbird Lane, home to a hive of bloodthirsty vampires, and not the fun and sexy kind.
No such thing as not fun and sexy vampires, first of all. Second of all,
I was thinking more like if like Deacon and Taika Waititi are like the sexy vampires of What We Do in the Shadows. This is like a Peter situation.
Okay. Are there any non-bad people living in Carey, Ohio at this point? Or do we have a kind of House of Mouse,
it's
House of Villains
murderers.
situation?
Yeah.
It's kind of a Oops All Berries, but with villains.
Oops All Villains. It's kind of the murder town. But yeah, Carey's made numerous appearances and gets tied into the lore in different ways every year. I guess I would love to see someone make like a map of Carey based on what we know about it now, because it would be bonkers. Again, a tabletop RPG.
That's real. I wasn't joking. That's a good idea.
So now that we've kind of laid the basis of Carey, let's go into a little bit more of the icons. You know, we got to know them a little bit in the first episode of our show ever, but you know, there's more. There's more there. We didn't get to know them that well. We kind of had a speed dating situation. Now we're going to go on the second date
with each individual one.
No
commitment.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's start with the first. Well, technically not the first. The first one was the Crypt Keeper. But the first original Halloween Horror Nights icon, Jack the Clown. Now, Jack goes by other aliases, including Chaos, the Ringmaster, and the Clown Prince of Blood. Now, I feel like
and the Joker.
They're really stepping on DC's toes with that one.
He goes by also the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin. So Mr. Freeze.
Jack's my favorite Batman villain, Calendar Man.
He's actually a good. Okay.
Is he good? Yeah. So Jack's lore goes even deeper than we originally thought. This is a abridged version, since the actual Jack the Clown history spans multiple pages.
Lay it on me.
We don't have the time. So let me paint you this story. Jack Schmidt was a carnival performer in the 1920s who ran away from his abusive family to join the circus, abandoning his little brother, Eddie. He loved to entertain, but behind the fun mask, he was secretly a twisted murderer and was wanted for the abduction and disappearance of several children. When the police were on his tail, he confided in his boss, Dr. Oddfellow, hoping for concealment. But Oddfellow, who was also wanted for the death of several patrons in a, quote, freak carnival accident. I don't know what constitutes a freak carnival accident.
Yeah, any carnival accident.
Instead, killed Jack to cover it up and hid his body in the carnival's House of Horrors attraction, where it stayed even after the show closed and the attractions were sold and split up. 60 years later, in 1980, a BBC documentary crew documenting the Great Dark Rides of America. Now, why is the BBC doing Great Dark Rides of America? You guys got Alton Towers.
That's like if the hosts of this podcast were two British children, as we are.
I thought you were going to say
children.
doing something we're wildly unqualified for, which I were to say.
I would argue we are. Yeah.
So they came across the attraction in a Louisiana junkyard and began filming the interior. They found a large Jack-in-the-Box with Jack written on it and began turning the crank, and out popped the decomposing body of Jack Schmidt.
How did nobody smell it? Why did they turn the crank? Were they just like, how big is this box?
It was sent to a coroner's office, but vanished in transit. Okay. Soon later, the slaughtered bodies of the documentary crew were found.
International news. BBC news crew found dead.
Yeah. Jack was caught a few years later and committed to Shady Brook Sanitarium, where he had a grisly effect in Carey, Ohio, where he had a grisly effect on the other patients who began to exhibit clown-like symptoms and behave just like him. He escaped and found Dr. Oddfellow, who must have been very old since he was already the boss of a carnival in 1920, and now it's the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Killed him and took his silver-headed cane of souls, which is presumably how he stayed alive all these years.
He had all the souls in there.
Yeah. He stole Oddfellow's show and began performing as the Carnival of Carnage in Orlando, Florida, collecting murderous sideshow acts.
Yeah, sure. So a few things. You hate to see friends and family lost to symptoms of clown.
Yeah.
But also, there's not, we don't have sanitariums anymore.
No.
In 1990 or 1985 or whatever, he finally gets caught. Like, they're like, let's put him in a sanitarium, you know, how we have in the Reagan years.
Yeah, because it's Victorian London.
I knew Reagan was regressive, but I didn't know it went this far.
Yeah, really. So Jack has since appeared at Halloween Horror Nights more than 6 times, 3 of which he was the official icon.
How have we not caught him yet?
He's still out there. For 3 of which he was the official icon for. He replaced being the icon for Eddie in the post 9/11 event in order to tone down on the graphic violence. And he was allegedly supposed to be the icon this year for the show's 30th anniversary. And if we look at the merch they're selling that they already made, it appears he was going to be. But hopefully they'll bring him back next year for his rightful return as the King of Icons. He's by far the most famous and popular one. And I think they will do that because now they're not advertising this like mini event as Halloween Horror Nights 30. They're calling it Halloween Horror Nights Forever. So probably next year they're going to call it 30 and then bring Jack back and stuff. And then hopefully we'll get stuff like the Beetlejuice house we were going to get and, you know, but hopefully he'll make a triumphant return.
What's more Jack the Clown than killing the very event that he was going to be an icon at, you know?
Yeah. And as for Eddie, we talked about him as he was the canceled icon in the post 9/11 event. However, he did make later appearances in houses such as Horror Nights Nightmares, Run, Hostile Territory, and Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem. Run, I think, has had 2 houses, and that's kind of a cool one because it's like a, you know that show Wipeout?
Heard of it.
It's like that, but it's murder.
I like that a lot. Run Hostile Territory sounds like an album of like a punk indie band that you went to high school with.
Are they a good punk indie band?
Probably. The main kid
Hostile
is in
Territory
chorus
is
with
not
you.
a bad name for an album.
Yeah, I mean, like the main kid was in chorus with you, and he always like kind of stretched his voice when he was doing his own work, and you kind of felt like maybe his range was diminishing now that he was getting his mature adult voice. But you know, the lyrics are pretty solid.
Yeah. So Jack's sidekick, Chance, made her debut
the
in
rapper.
2000s.
Oh,
Chance the rapper.
I made that same exact joke.
Same joke.
2 or 3 years ago at this point.
So Chance made her debut in the 2007 Carnival of Carnage show as the Harley Quinn to Jack the Clown's Joker. She made another appearance in the 2015 version of the show and basically stole the show. She was the best part of that year's Carnival of Carnage. By the way, if you're in both of the Carnival of Carnages from both years are on YouTube, and if you don't mind gore, they're a total riot. So Universal made her the icon of 2016's event, You Won't Stand a Chance.
You're the woman. 2016, baby.
Little information is given about her backstory specifically, but we know that she stole the show from Jack after the two were arrested following the 2015 event and separated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so technically we caught Jack in 2015. However,
but then that ding dang rascal, he got out again.
However, the event actually took place inside her theater of the mind as she was committed to the Shady Brook Sanitarium, so she could only host the event in the delusions of her imagination.
This is Chance's mind. We're all just living in it.
Yeah. She's great. I really like Chance. I know her event got kind of mixed reviews, but I think she's great. And I hope they bring her back when they bring Jack back. So let's continue and talk about a couple more icons. Sorry not to give each as an in-depth a dive as Jack, but he's just got the most lore.
Yeah.
So this next icon, the caretaker, who we mentioned earlier, or Dr. Albert Kane. He was a surgeon who became the caretaker of the Shady Oak Cemetery in Carey, Ohio, known for performing experiments on both corpses and the living. We heard that most
cemeteries don't do that.
They don't.
There's no part.
Not even the little.
Cemeteries, just the last part of it. Coroner, autopsy specialist, all of that is before that.
Yeah. So he also had a young daughter, Cindy Kane, who was supposed to be the icon of the event that year, but was switched last minute. She's made a few select appearances in some scare zones and houses, such as the orphanage Ashes to Ashes, but not much else is known about her. You know, after she kind of got demoted from icon, they never really went into her again.
Yeah, well, you know, we told her that she was taking on too many extracurricular activities, and it turned out that like the night of Halloween Horror Nights was also the night of her ballet recital, and at some point you just need to sit her down and say, hey, you can't be committing 100% to both of these teams that you're a part of, and at some point you're going to be letting one of them down. And so she made the decision that she was going to let us know that Halloween Horror Nights is going to kind of take a back burner, and that ballet is really her dream.
I mean, there was a real actual reason that they switched her from the icon.
I just gave it.
Yeah, right. Now we mentioned it in the original episode that there was a string of child abductions in the Sanford area, and they decided. Yeah, that's why I said I was gonna let you finish it, but
thanks. Thank you.
Anyway,
thank you.
So I would give the caretaker a solid 6 out of 10. You know?
Oh, okay.
We're rating them now.
Great. Okay, great.
I gave Jack a 10. I would give the caretaker a solid 6. He was the first, you know, points for that. I mean, the first post Jack in a post Jack world. He was the first. I like his like creepy Undertaker thing he's got going on, a classic, but he's not super interesting.
Yeah, I'll give him 4 Dompe's out of 10.
He's a little old school for me. The next one we'll talk about is the director, or Paolo Ravinsky, as his full name. He is an Eastern European snuff film director who was shunned out of Europe after his first picture, The Widow's Eye, was released, which is what brought him to America. He was then hired by Universal Orlando to shoot a horror film inside the park.
What a self-own or Universal.
Yeah, I know.
That's good.
Yeah.
Don't like him, but
his signature kill was all of these icons had a signature kill. I believe the caretakers involved a big old pair of scissors, but the directors was shooting somebody in a bathtub and then dropping a toaster into said bathtub.
You know, like they do in the movies.
Like they do in the movies. The director didn't have a ton else going on, but he's a good sport. I like the film angle they took. I give him a 7 out of 10.
I, like Roger Ebert, will give him a 4 out of 4 stars.
Okay, that's nice. That's generous.
Yeah, it's I don't like it that much, so it gets it's bad, so therefore it gets a perfect score. Remember when he gave Phantom Menace a 3 out of 4?
Yeah,
wild. Anyway,
the next one we'll talk about, and this is the one you'll be excited about, Devin. The storyteller, or Elsa Strict. Now, she actually wasn't given a backstory.
Let it go.
Really early on it. She actually was given a backstory for her event, but she was used again for Halloween Horror Nights 16, along with some other famous icons. We were told that as a child, she was visited by a winged creature who wanted to eat her alive. She retaliated by eating it and therefore inheriting its darkness.
Yes! Hercules, eat your heart out.
This woman is extremely powerful. And more so because she is the creator of the Terra Cruntus story.
Oh!
So Terra Cruntus, ruled by the Terra Queen. In Terra Cruntus, blood is the fuel of life and creation, and pieces of sacrificial victims are used to forge iron that is then made into the Terra Throne Blade. The blood of the sacrifice is used to power her throne, and the cycle continues as the Queen's bone chopper riders, who are cool skeletons on motorbikes, deliver it. The cycle ended on the final night of the event, where the Queen herself was sacrificed using the Terra Throne Blade.
This is so sick. This sounds like an indie game from like 2008 that won a bunch of awards, but we look back at it now and we're like, oh, that's a bit insensitive. But it's good. I like it.
Yeah, I originally didn't like the storyteller because I thought she was kind of boring and not really scary. But then kind of tying her in with the Terra Cruntus thing, like this is a metal. This woman is metal as hell. I give her a 7 out of 10.
I give her 208 skeleton bones out of 208 or however many we have.
The next one we'll talk about is Bloody Mary, or Dr. Mary Agana. She is the icon with the most backstory, and I mean a lot of backstory, even more so than Jack. Her lore was unlocked through several case studies on the Halloween Horror Nights website in the weeks leading up to the event. So researching this episode...
It was like an ARG?
Yeah. Researching this episode, I spent like 4 years on the Wayback Machine at the old Halloween Horror Nights website trying to find the primary sources for all this information. So basically, Dr. Agana was a psychotherapist in the 1950s who founded Living Fearlessly, specialized treatments for fear-based ailments in 1958. Patients began to disappear from this clinic, rumoredly staffed by ex-cons and other patients, and a private investigator begins an investigation on the clinic. During this investigation, Dr. Agana is found murdered, supposedly by the investigator. But now some believe that the spirit of Bloody Mary, who is Mary Worthington, her grandmother, who was a teacher in school, had been gradually possessing Dr. Agana, leading to her cruel ways. And that's how she became Bloody Mary.
Okay, this seems like the kind of thing that if you're at the event, you're like, meh. But if you like went home and you read it, it's kind of like H Bomber Guy did an episode on Ruby about how Ruby isn't fun to watch, but it's if you read about it online, it seems like the coolest show ever. That's this.
I kind of think this is too much. Like this is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. It makes sense that it would probably be more exciting released in small chunks.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like the kind of thing designed to be like, and a reveal, and a reveal, and a reveal, and a reveal. Like a good dress on RuPaul's Drag Race.
And also she was the one who got Universal in trouble with copyright infringement because the idea of Bloody Mary is copyrighted, which is why they had to write. That's why they had to write all this backstory so that she's like, oh, she's not Mary Queen of Scots. Which Mary is it? Is it Mary Queen of Scots?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's somebody else. So I give Bloody Mary a 5 out of 10.
I give her 3 Bloody Marys in the bathroom mirror, but out of Candyman said in the mirror. Figure that one out.
I think Candyman intrinsically has more value than Bloody Mary. So.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So the usher, or Julian Browning, I think that's that's a sweet boy. That's a sweet name for this man.
That's a witness protection program name. So
he's an usher at the Universal Palace Theater in the 1920s who loved the movies. However, he hated it when people didn't follow the rules. During the 1940s re-release of The Phantom of the Opera, his favorite horror movie, Julian got into an argument with a rude patron who took his flashlight and threw it behind the screen. When he went to go and get it, he somehow became entangled in the ropes and suffocated. Now he haunts the Universal Palace Theater to punish those who break the rules of the movies.
Yes, I'm so in. It is simple. It is So specific.
Yeah.
It is. Our dear boy Julian used to work at the movies. He was a bit of a stickler, but then he died.
He loved those movies.
He was a bit of a tight ass, but we loved him anyway. It didn't mean he wanted him to die, but now he's a ghost, I guess.
I love. He's one of my favorite icons. It breaks my heart to know that I love him so much, but he would probably kill me listen, I'm gonna lose friends over this. I'm a movie talker. I don't talk through the whole movie. But what if I have a fun fact? Am I just supposed not to share it?
Yes.
See, here's the thing, though. I only go to the movies with people who are also movie talkers, and we sit far away from other people. If somebody sits down next to us, we will move. I'm a considerate movie talker.
That's good.
Yeah, you shouldn't go to the movies with me if you don't want to talk. And I don't talk through the whole movie, and I won't sit near you if you don't want to talk. But I am a movie talker because I like sharing fun facts and commenting about what's going on.
I have a fun thing about my life, which is that I can never take movie-related horror seriously, like movie theater stuff or anything, because all I ever picture is in the first Halloween Town when they're all in the movie theater and there's like the scary light that comes from the movie screen that petrifies everybody, which is terrifying, but I can only ever think of that.
Okay, that's
and then I think of the skeleton guy who drove the taxi cab.
I do like that skeleton
that
man.
Good.
Definitely on the board of podcast heroes.
Oh, for sure. Along with Debbie Reynolds.
Along with Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah.
The next icon is Fear, just Fear itself. In early 2010, a paranormal investigation company known as the legendary Truth Collective discovered a lantern in the Universal Orlando Art and Design Building, along with a puzzle of photos. When they completed with the puzzle, the lantern was lit and Fear had been freed from the lantern.
What kind of Yu-Gi-Oh ass?
So it was revealed that after 19 cycles or years of Halloween Horror Nights, he was prepared to reveal himself in the 20th cycle. He'd been the puppet master of the past 19 years, using the other icons as pawns or heralds to carry his lantern and spread terror. So those representing different parts of horror. So Jack the Clown being chaos, the caretaker representing death. The director was sacrifice, the storyteller was legend, and the usher was vengeance.
Yes, I'm into this. This is very comic book. I feel like they do best when they lean into the comic book of it all, because this is very like Black Lantern story or Apocalypse with X-Men, where he has the 4 horsemen.
Yeah,
very good.
I like it as a concept, but my problem with it and other people's problem with it is that it downplayed the other icons' importance. Right. Like they were literally pawns for this other thing. And also, this man was too big to fit in his own goddamn house. He was a still performer. He was like 11 feet tall, and he didn't fit in his icon house. That he was like in the Fear house, his icon house. He wasn't in it because he was too big.
He had to like stand outside and be like, "Go get spooked in my spooky house."
So points because he looked really cool, but 6 out of 10.
Okay, I'll give him 4 horsemen out of 4.
Okay. Then finally, the most recent use of an icon was Lady Luck. Now,
they call you Lady Luck.
I knew this was going to happen.
But there is room to doubt. At times, you have a very spooky way. I don't have anything.
Yeah. So Lady Luck,
I had a long time to get something. I had a long time. That was a long intro, and I didn't have anything.
It's okay. It's okay. You were just feeling yourself.
We'll regroup next week.
Yeah. So she was for Halloween Horror Nights 21 because it was like blackjack and
yes, yeah, because she could. Everybody could drink at this one.
Yeah, this was the first year everyone was allowed to drink. So Lady Luck is a shape-shifting demon who's been around since man began taking chances. So I guess forever.
For all
when and anthropologically did we start taking chances?
Literally the first one.
Yeah.
Whoever the first one was, it was him. Yeah.
Yeah. But bad things happen to those who gamble with her and lose. So it is said that before the closing of Shady Brook Sanitarium
in 2003, 10 years far after it should have been closed. So far after.
A prisoner named Floyd Mercer hung himself and left behind a notebook full of quotes about luck. Floyd was actually the only person to gamble with Lady Luck and survive. He witnessed one of his friends play poker and win with Lady Luck by his side. Later that night, he saw her eating him in her true monstrous form. He escaped when she spotted him and faked being insane to get into Shady Brook and stay alive. When she found out where he was, he hung himself.
Okay, I'm in. I'm hooked.
Yes.
Reel me in.
So she had a direct connection to each house at Halloween Horror Nights, giving the main character or the guest a choice to make that seals their doom. For example, in the house Nevermore, The Madness of Poe, Poe had to decide whether to return home to Boston or go to Baltimore, where he would wed Virginia Clem. He chooses.
So this Poe, this is the Teletubby or the Kung Fu Panda? Which one?
Which one do you think it is?
I think it's their child, Poe Jr.
Poe Jr.
Son of Poe and Poe.
Son of Poe. Son of Poe sounds like a terrible 2009 horror action
I love
film.
how we always go to 2009.
Well, it's it reminds you of I, Frankenstein.
Yeah, it was when iCarly was big. All the eyes.
Yeah, all the eyes. So in this house, Nevermore, that is the Poe. Poe decides whether to go home to Baltimore, or go to Boston, or to Baltimore, where he would later wed Virginia Clem. He chooses to take a ship to Baltimore, where he would begin his descent into madness after Virginia dies of tuberculosis. The ticket taker who escorted him to the ship to Baltimore was none other than Lady Luck.
Ooh.
So every house had this element with it was kind of like a Where's Waldo, but with Lady Luck.
But with a demon.
Yeah, so every house had this element.
So just Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
That's right. I said it.
Very, very powerful eldritch being.
How is he in so many different places at once? Just because I turned the page in the book doesn't mean he's not still on that other page.
Yeah. Although the concept of that's scary, but then also the concept of turning to through a Where's Waldo book and him only being on the page you're currently looking at is also very scary.
And he's always looking at you.
That's an SCP. It's a Where's Waldo book where Waldo only appears on the page that you're looking at.
Yes.
Anyway, with Lady Luck, the connection to these houses were cool, but she was missing a certain je ne sais quoi.
Okay.
I think it's that she didn't talk.
Right. She just kind of was present, which I like as an idea.
Even in her other appearances and scare zones and stuff, she never talked. And that she's kind of missing that Chucky charisma.
Right.
Where you get the one-liners to reel everybody in.
Right. I feel like Luck as this concept is actually really interesting. Like if it was a horror book or a horror movie where you just had Luck existing as this demon who shifted forms and was always there for a person whenever a chance was happening, that'd be really cool. But when you're a Halloween Horror Nights icon, you probably have to be less of the ever-present demon and more of the demon that really, sells the car.
Yeah, the host of the party.
Yeah, the ghost host with the most.
The ghost host coast to coast with the most. So that was the last year that an official icon was used. As of the past, 9 events at this point, it's kind of been more of an even split between IP houses and original houses. So a lot of the storylines have kind of taken a seat on the back burner. But hopefully with this anniversary event coming up, we're going to see a return to maybe we'll go back to Carey, Ohio, see some cool original concepts and the return of some of our favorite icons.
Ooh, who do you want to return, Adam?
I mean, definitely Jack, but also the Usher. I think he's a sweet boy.
Usher.
He's a good boy, and I want him to come back.
I want the storyteller to come back. I want Tara Kruntis to make a comeback. I'm so into that. It's
pretty.
It's
insane.
a JRPG ass story. What's
really crazy is that they could have just made Tara Kruntis the main thing of the event, but they had to put a meta theatrical frame around Tara Kruntis,
which is why probably we like it, specifically us two. That you already have a cool story. You already have a cool story, and then you put if you have a cool story, Adam and I are hooked. If you put a meta theatrical frame around it,
another
we're reeled
story
in.
on top of that story. Yeah, they didn't need to do that, but I think that makes it all the more cool.
Very good. Well, this has been our dive into the HHNCU coming to theaters near you very soon.
Oh, that would be cool.
That would be cool. Thank you so much for listening to this episode 33. 1/3 to 100, Adam. Only 67 more to go. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on whatever podcast platform you happen to use. If you're on iTunes, leave a review and a rating. That would be great. If you are on Spotify, just give us a follow. And there's a brilliant little share button that like makes the post all like pretty and nice on Facebook and Twitter. But the best way to spread the word about the show is to tell a friend who likes to get spooked or likes to listen to two goofballs be funny about getting spooked. Adam, can you pimp our social medias, please?
Yes, you can find us on Facebook at The Great American Scream or on Twitter and Instagram at Great Scream Pod. You can post or let us know what your favorite Halloween Horror Nights icons, houses, and pieces of lore are using the hashtag TGAS. And if there is something you'd like to hear about on the show, let us know because your suggestion may become an episode in the future.
Yes, a special thank you goes out to Stevie Viola, who does the intro and outro music for the show. You can find him on Twitter. And to Michael Segudo, who does the intro disclaimer at the beginning of the show.
Yes, and once again, make sure you check out Cast Member Pantry on Facebook and Venmo if you would like to help furloughed theme park employees in Orlando. You can donate them directly if you're in the Orlando area or donate to them on Venmo, again, at Cast Member Pantry. Help out if you can.
Absolutely. And also, we've been having a lot of fun with these history of blank episodes, like the zombie one, the Halloween one, the vampire one. We have another one planned for next week. If there's a monster that you want us to talk about, especially a lesser known one, definitely let us know and we will make an episode about it. Other than that, I've been Devin Wright.
I've been Adam O'Connell.
And hopefully you have been spooked, but not in Orlando, Florida, because stuff's kind of wild down there.
Yeah. And also Jack the Clown, if you're out there, answer my email about appearing as a guest on this show.
Is he the one with the big blender?
Yeah.
Go get spooked in a big blender. Go get all scooped up and...
Answer my emails, Jack. I know you're listening.